Thank you, Chair. Commissioner, the government ripped out over 360 pages from their $8 billion net zero accelerator fund and from the contracts. So they ripped out 360 pages. Did the government remove any pages from the contracts before you read them? Yes or no?
My recollection from my colleague, Monsieur Blouin, last week is that he indicated that we had full access to those documents. I didn't read each of them, all the pages myself, but the team reviewed them, yes.
So there were no pages ripped out when the team reviewed them?
My recollection, but I don't have that team with me here today, but I believe he answered something similar to that last week on Monday.
Thank you.
Or whatever day we were here last week. We've been here quite a few times.
Yes, we meet Mondays and Wednesdays, so it is.
It was either a Monday or a Wednesday then.
Commissioner, do you believe Canadians are getting good value for money from the government's $8 billion net zero accelerator fund?
Our view is that they haven't demonstrated that they're providing value for money. It's possible that good value for money will be obtained, but we would like it to be shown in advance in a transparent way that that's happening, as opposed to just hoping that it will happen.
Were there some projects, like, did you have any examples inside in the reports that were, some projects showed like there were, the value for money was like beyond $160 a ton?
So we did two calculations, and again, I don't have that binder with me. So,
were there any?
We looked at 5 that had commitments in the contribution agreement, and it was a little less than $200 in terms of the cost per ton. And then if you divided it by 17, then it was over 500, if I recall correctly.
$100 a ton?
If across all 17, if you did the calculation that way.
Okay.
So,
well,
we do have concerns about that. Yes.
Okay. Has the current government ever misled Canadians about their emissions reduction data or projections? Yes or no?
Misled in a sort of a intentional way, or misled in?
Well, if they did, how did they mislead?
Well, we've had examples of inaccurate projections in various audits, but whether there was a mental state of mind, if the government can have one, in terms of they're trying to mislead, I don't know. But I only look at whether the projections are being met, and if not, whether the projections are reliable, and if so, whether they're being met. I haven't really looked at the intention behind the statements associated with the projections.
Or inaccuracies.
Yeah, so there's definitely been inaccuracies.
Okay. Do you have any reason to believe that the current government is double counting their emissions reductions and therefore misleading Canadians?
So this is come up in several of our recent reports, that the siloed approach and the lack of centralization on the climate file can lead to double counting, and it could be innocuous double counting that one department doesn't know that it's also being covered by another. So there have been examples of double counting. The most, I guess, the earliest example we had was from the Emissions Reduction Fund, where a subsidy to the oil and gas industry was not designed in a way that would necessarily be additional to what was going to be achieved through regulation anyway. And so there was a potential for double counting from the subsidy program and the regulation. There have been other examples as well.
Commissioner, I'm going to quote the Parliamentary Secretary for the Environment Minister. Earlier this year, he stated in the House of Commons, and I quote, "We are ahead of our initial 2030 target and firmly on track to meet the targets set out in our 2030 emissions reduction plan." End quote. Is this statement true or accurate? Yes or no?
So as I indicated earlier, the words "on track" can be used in different ways in different contexts. That's why I define the way I'm using it. So I would say the government is not on track according to the 3 criteria that I mentioned a few minutes ago.
And I know before you had a graph up, and the Parliamentary Secretary actually referred to a motion, like once you get the wave started, it'll go kind of thing. But then you had the same graph up here. At the very end of it, it's actually headed on the way back up again. So this government actually, throughout all their increases in the carbon tax and everything else, and all these $8 billion net zero accelerator fund and all this stuff, it's going up. Would you not agree with that?
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons why I said, in terms of the third element of on-trackness, if there's such a word, is there needs to be an effective implementation of actions resulting in significant year-over-year reductions. So we're not seeing that post-COVID. We are seeing it bounce back up a little bit. The good thing is it's not bounced back up all the way, so that's good news if you want to look at it as the glass half full. But we do need a very steep drop to get down to our future targets. And if you extrapolate the graph so far, you're still going to need a much steeper drop than what we're seeing recently.
Thank you. Mr. Ali.